Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into a problem that is, frankly, deeply human, but we're looking at a highly technical framework designed to actually solve it. We are unpacking the architecture of Sigma BankAI. Basically, this system takes the completely fragmented, ridiculously expensive world of global remittances and flips it on its head using decentralized tech. We're talking about turning those episodic, one-off cash transfers into long-term digital financial inclusion. Listen to this perspective. For migrant workers sending money home, remittances aren't just some abstract financial product. No way. They are literal lifelines. They dictate how families eat, how school fees get paid, and how vulnerable households survive sudden economic shocks. But here's the crazy part. Despite being absolutely essential, our traditional financial architecture treats these cross-border flows almost like a luxury. It relies on this totally convoluted, expensive web of correspondent banks. It's a legacy system that historically shuts out the exact people who need it the most. To put that into perspective, just consider this staggering global average: 6.2%. That is the cost of traditional remittances today. That means billions of dollars are just lost, vanishing annually just in pure friction. Imagine sending a chunk of your hard-earned paycheck across the world, only to have over 6% of it disappear into thin air before it even reaches your family. For the unbanked, this massive cost, combined with the usual 3 to 5 days it takes to actually settle, acts as this giant wall of exclusion. It's just friction, plain and simple, and it heavily penalizes low-income households. And the ultimate result of all that friction: systemic exclusion. We're talking about over 2 billion people globally who are currently trapped outside the formal financial system. Think about it. When the money finally does arrive through those traditional channels, it's almost always trapped in cash-only payouts. A recipient waits in a long line, picks up physical cash, and, well, the transaction just ends right there. They are never connected to formal savings, credit, or insurance. It's a massive global disconnect. Sigma BankAI's whole thesis is that if we can convert these remittance flows onto digital rails, we can permanently dismantle that wall. So how do they actually go about dismantling that wall? Well, it really comes down to 4 structural pillars. Sigma BankAI isn't just throwing things at the wall to see what sticks. They're deploying a proven process with tightly localized liquidity management. They're leveraging advanced technology for real-time foreign exchange and syncing up smart contracts. They enforce bank-grade security, so trust is never, ever compromised. And finally, the whole thing runs on scalable infrastructure, built specifically to handle enterprise-level volume. When you put all that together, these pillars make digital assets behave with the sheer velocity of data, but with the strict, hardcore compliance of modern banking. Let's actually trace the micro-journey of a single transaction going through this pipeline. Step 1 is fiat ingress, which kicks off through localized open banking APIs. Instantly, in Step 2, the Sigma AI liquidity router jumps in, evaluating global liquidity pairs to lock in the absolute lowest FX spread. Then, Step 3, and this is a real game changer. Instead of waiting days for traditional settlement, a high-throughput bridge asset executes a near-instantaneous atomic swap. That means the trade happens simultaneously and securely, completely cutting out the middleman. Finally, in Step 4, those funds terminate directly inside the recipient's decentralized app, or DApp, right into a custodial wallet. To really grasp how seamless this is, picture the regulated sender experience. Imagine a worker in Windsor, California, and they want to send money back to their family in Cameroon. Because the sender's account is fully regulated, their identity and risk profile are already verified. So they punch in the transfer amount, and the system instantly prices the FX in real time. It automatically applies specific corridor fees and runs rule-based background screening in milliseconds. That sender in Windsor sees exactly what it will cost and exactly when it'll arrive in Cameroon, which is usually in just minutes. Total 100% transparency. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly why Sigma's approach actually works for the unbanked. Because, let's be real, traditional Web3 onboarding is painful. You're managing complex seed phrases, holding random native tokens just to pay network gas fees. It's a mess. But the Sigma D app, it feels exactly like a slick, polished mobile banking app for a recipient in Cameroon. The infrastructure uses this really neat trick called account abstraction to pay all those gas fees entirely behind the scenes. So for the actual user, the friction is literally zero. They absolutely do not need to be crypto experts just to receive their own money. But wait, how does an unbanked recipient actually get set up for the very first time? Well, it's lightning fast. Sigma uses a risk-based, tiered Know Your Customer or KYC onboarding process that is highly optimized for low-value transfers. The recipient just gets a simple link via SMS or WhatsApp. They verify their phone number, punch in a few basic pieces of identity data, and boom. Within seconds, Sigma BankAI spins up an institutional-grade custodial wallet on-chain for them. All that cryptographic complexity completely abstracted away. And once that money lands, honestly, everything changes. The funds show up as a clear balance in their local currency. But instead of just a one-off, stressful physical cash pickup, that family in Cameroon now has a persistent, always-on digital financial relationship. I mean, sure, they can still cash out through local partners if they really need to, but now they can also allocate a chunk to a savings pocket, pay their utility bills directly from the app, or even send smaller microtransfers locally to other relatives. The remittance actually transforms into a doorway to this whole broader financial ecosystem. Of course, moving money at this kind of breakneck speed requires some seriously robust guardrails to balance that velocity with compliance. They tackle this by using multi-party computation, or MPC, to literally split private keys into distinct shards. That means there is no single vulnerable point of failure. At the exact same time, the engine is constantly running zero-knowledge checks. This is a brilliant way to cryptographically prove compliance without exposing any of the underlying sensitive data. It handles real-time travel rules and anti-money laundering screening before a block is even committed. It is quite literally compliance by design, keeping regulators happy while keeping user privacy totally intact. Now let's talk about scale, because if this infrastructure is going to realistically serve billions of people, it absolutely has to be cheap. By tapping into Layer 2 scaling solutions and highly optimized consensus mechanisms, Sigma neatly sidesteps the notorious network congestion of legacy blockchains. The result? They can process enterprise-level transaction volumes concurrently across multiple continents, and the operational cost stays at just fractions of a single cent per transaction. That economic sustainability is absolutely huge. It's what makes small, frequent micro-remittances actually viable for everyday workers. And because the entire tech stack is beautifully modular, meaning they separate the FX, the compliance, the custody, and the payout rails, Sigma can scale up incredibly fast. They don't have to rebuild their core infrastructure from scratch every single time they enter a new market. They can light up the US to Latin America corridor on day 1, then seamlessly integrate Europe to Africa by month 6, and expand from the Gulf countries to South Asia by year 1. It operates like a true global neobank platform, just continuously plugging in new local partners via APIs. Now, here is where things get really fascinating. It's the intelligence built directly on top of these rails. Since cross-border flows generate a ton of rich behavioral data, Sigma actually introduces an AI layer into the mix. Just imagine a user inside the dApp asking this exact question: how much can I safely save from each remittance? With the user's explicit consent, a DeepThink AI agent, which is powered by some seriously advanced language models, analyzes their specific financial patterns to give them a real, actionable answer. So the AI agent can instantly crunch their history and reply with something super practical, like, we recommend saving 10 to 15% and scheduling automatic top-ups. This isn't just some generic pop-up message. It acts as a highly personalized financial coach living right inside the user's pocket. It simulates scenarios, forecasts future balances, and gives highly localized, simple recommendations to help users smooth out their income volatility or pay down debt. For someone who has literally never had a bank account before, this level of accessible, AI-augmented guidance is a massive, game-changing leap forward in building personal financial resilience. When we zoom back out, the true macro impact of all this becomes crystal clear. It boils down to 3 words: inclusion, velocity, sovereignty. Digital financial inclusion isn't just some distant pie-in-the-sky developmental goal anymore. With frameworks like this, it is a fully deployable reality right now. By optimizing these digital remittance corridors to directly feed secure custodial wallets, Sigma BankAI is doing so much more than just moving money faster. They are fundamentally transferring long-term economic agency directly into the hands of the unbanked. So, we've explored exactly how a proven process, highly scalable tech, and an entirely uncompromised security can all come together to dismantle that massive wall of financial exclusion. The digital infrastructure finally exists to connect the unbanked directly to the heartbeat of global commerce. So the question I leave you with is this: which global corridor will you help light up next? If you're building in this space, the technology is ready and waiting. Thank you so much for joining me to unpack this incredible framework in today's explainer, and I will catch you in the next one.